as Joe mentioned, we have the opportunity to welcome Willie Berman and his wife Veronica this morning to be in ministry with us, and they showed us tremendous hospitality when we were in Rio Bravo at Manos Juntas missionary site. But Willie has had an amazing journey, and I'm sure you're going to hear more about it, but he and his wife live in Reynosa, Mexico, and Manos Juntas is in Rio Bravo in another community, but his ministry has led him to just start wonderful community ministries, doing community development in places where it's needed. But my understanding is that he really started more focused on border issues, and so he serves also as that Mexican missionary for the border ministries, and we had the opportunity to hear much more about that too. And it's very different hearing firsthand what's going on and being in that area of the world as opposed to what we hear on the news. So Willa, we welcome you this morning, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say to us and what words God's speaking through you today.
Just want to introduce my wife, Veronica, and she doesn't speak English. She just smiles very well, but she understands everything I say in English also. So I'm going to be careful with that. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for having us here. We were blessed by some of the young people that you send down there. Do you hear me saying some of them? I hope Matt, I don't know if you know Matt, I hope he doesn't go back to Mexico. And you make sure that he knows that I'm saying that, okay? No. We became friends, and we enjoyed having them down there. We don't get a lot of youth teams anymore after all of the hearings of the violence in Mexico. But in our ministry, we're receiving about almost 50 teams a year, and from different states of your country. And we start by greeting them on the U.S. side and bringing them across in our 15 passenger vans that are a gift from God. Those vans make your faith grow. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. And some of them we think they're Pentecostal vans because you have to lay hands on them so they can go. But anyway, and then we bring them across. We work with them, and we were also with Pastor Tom Lank and his other crew. We were together, and we realized that fellowship and getting to know each other and understanding the different ways of life was a good mission. We became friends, and that is without thinking about what is the next project. What are we gonna do? But to get to know the people, that was the project. And we hope that you will be able to send some of them again. No, all of them again. I'm sorry. But we want not just your people to come and get to know us, but also we're working on having Mexican youth that they can be with them and they become friends, and then our youth will start doing mission work. In our ministry, one of the things that we want to do is to empower the people of Mexico to do mission work, not just to be hosting mission teams, but also to equip the Mexican church, to equip the Mexican youth, and teach them about serving others. I was thinking this morning, what is a perfect day in church? Pastors might think is that everything goes well, that the music, everything, the sound, the timing, I have understand that in the U.S. Timing goes perfect in church. But I believe that a perfect day in church is when you and I realize that we have been forgiven and that we are ready to go out and serve. I think that's a perfect day. So thank you for hosting us these days. We've been meeting some other people in your areas, in your churches around here. This is one of the first times that I'm up here visiting churches, and we appreciate the opportunity. And I want to share with you about the Bible, a story that I don't think you have ever heard. Well, David and Goliath, maybe the kids.
They're not getting your jokes. I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm enjoying myself here. So
I will laugh.
okay, please. Yes, okay. A lot of the Mexican kids with American teams go down there. They hear Vacation Bible School. They hear about Jonah and the whale, and David and Goliath, and Jesus, the fish and the bread. That's the three top stories that I'm like, okay, guys, I don't need you. I can tell that story now. But on this story of David and Goliath, one of the things that we need to do is how do we apply those stories to our life? Who are we on each of these stories? Where do we fit on that? And I say that we haven't heard this because I'm not preaching about David. I'm preaching about the army of God. How the army was lining up for the battle. And they did it for 40 days. That's what the Bible says. Every morning, they line up. They heard Goliath challenge, send me one and we will settle here. We will fight. And they took a break for lunch. They did. And then they went back in the afternoon and line up again. Because the Bible says that they did it in the morning and in the afternoon. And they were hearing that challenge from Goliath. I think that Goliath even learned some Hebrew by the time, He learned to say it in Hebrew. I mean, it was 80 times. Well, anyway. But they were hearing the challenge morning and afternoon. And I think the church represents the army of God. And I think we line up for battle. And I think a lot of us, we do it on Sundays. We come up, we set our army, we sing and shout our war cry. That's how you say it, our war cry. And then we say and sing and read, we are the army of God. We are going to defeat evil. Our God is an awesome God. Satan has been defeated. And then we say, okay, time to go. Thank you for coming. Behave, and we'll see you next Sunday. But then we don't get into the battlefield. We try to get for lunch before the Baptist. And then we get into our daily lives. And then we come back and line up again. And we shout again. But then we don't get into the battle. Getting into the battlefield is not easy. Some of us are afraid. We see the giant, and we hear about more giants. We hear about poverty, We hear about immigration. We hear about divorce. We hear about sickness. We hear about children suffering. And we hear the challenge. But then we think, well, maybe a program will solve it. Maybe this other organization will do something about it. Maybe we will just send money. But that's not what the challenge is about. The challenge is, are you going to get into the field, into the battlefield? In our ministry, we have been able to start a clinic, and that clinic was being open only when American teams were there doing mission work, medical work. Now for 4 years, that clinic has become self-sufficient with Mexican staff, charging $3 to see the doctor. $150 is for the doctor, and $150 is for the ministry. We're partnering. We're providing the building. Doctors are coming in, Mexican doctors. They get a compensation for what they're doing, and we get some of the money so we can run the ministry, and it has become self-sufficient. We're working on starting, the name of our ministry is called Hands Together. We're starting Little Hands Together for Mexican kids to learn to do mission work. Then we're going to do youth Hands Together. Our young people, as you did it, sending youth to us, we're going to start sending our youth next door to our local churches in Mexico to do mission work. The church needs to be the army of God that prepares our young people to go into the battlefields. But they need to see us as the example of doing that. The challenge is out there. We have been able to work with community centers. My wife is the director of one of those where we're taking kids from pre-K, kindergarten, and elementary school in a community that, if it will not be because of our community center, they will not be going to school. 5th and 6th grade, we have 15 kids, one teacher. That teacher, by the way, those teachers are making $47 a week. So if you want us to come and talk to your school districts, we can do that. Maybe not. But out of those 15 kids, 7 are learning to write and read on 5th and 7th grades, 5th and 6th grades. Almost 50% of them don't know how to read and write. So we're working with some of the gaps, especially with the poor, that the government has not been able to succeed. And we're working by teaching them not just to read and write, but Christian values. We use our community centers, we use our clinic, we use our interaction with people to tell them Christ is the one that loves you. And that's why we're doing it. We have a staff of about 25 people. Some of them are full-time, some of them are part-time. When the youth were there, I was not all the time with them. There were other people with them, and they were working in one of our community centers. But the challenge remains. One of the cultural things that you have is the pumpkin, and Halloween celebrations. We don't have that in Mexico. We have, but we have the piñata. Do you know the story or the origin of the piñata? The piñata, everybody knows what the piñata is, right? I mean, you have beat up your husband once in a while. Okay. But the piñata, it's a religious symbol. It represents evil. And you can Google it, okay? The piñata represents evil. The stick that you hit it with, it represents the truth. And when you hit the piñata until you break it, you break evil. So sweet things come out of it. Blessings come out of breaking evil. The blindfolding represents the faith. And the decoration of the piñata represents temptation. And one of the original shapes of the piñata, it was the 7 pigs star, representing the 7 deadly sins. People has forgot about it, so now we have Dora la Exploradora and Superman and all of those good guys, but we beat them up. We need to break evil. That is the challenge for the church today. That is the challenge for the army of God. David represents the moment that comes to our life when we make a decision to start getting into the battlefield. It's not easy. Nobody is telling us it's easy. It's getting us out of our comfort zone. Coming to line up every Sunday is easy. Praying for others is easy. And sometimes it's enough, but most of the times it's not. We need to get into the battlefield, and we need to receive the call, and we need to say, here I am. How can I help so we can start taking the challenge of those giants? The army of God, God will fight for us. It's not our power. It's not our abilities. But what God wants to use us. So thank you for your support. Thank you for praying for us. Thank you for sending your youth. And we hope to see you again down there. But we want to know that you are taking the challenge. Everyone needs to take the challenge so we can be really the army of God. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for your love and mercy to our ministry. And thank you, Pastor, for letting me use this time. Amen.
If you'd like to be able to talk with Willie more, Willie's going to be with us during the trunk or treat. We're going to hang out in Boker Hall at the cafe, and that's the best way to get to know Willie is to have some conversation, because we just loved building relationships. I mean, that's what will change the world, is building relationships and getting to know one another. We really appreciate your message this morning, and we are putting together a young adult team. We are not sure whether we're going back to Mexico this year or waiting another year, but we are in the process of getting our donations. So there is an opportunity for donations, and we will be supporting you in one way or another this year, and then hopefully continue to build that relationship, because it really is, we do wonderful ministry and outreach in our local communities, but it's important for us to remember that there is a big, wide world out there, and our young adults really had an opportunity to see something they'd only heard about, and they'd really been able to be part of it. So thank you so much again for hosting us and for your message today.